Namaste everyone. This is a video about the distinction between Ujjayi and Khechari. And if this is not a familiar subject to you, Ujjayi is the breath of sound that we create by slightly closing the space between the glottis. The glottis is like what gives us voice. So that's somewhere maybe half to 2/3 the way down the throat, between right where the under part of the jaw meets the neck, somewhere between there and the space between the collarbones. About halfway down, 2/3 the way down, there's the glottis. That's the source, the origin point of Ujjayi. So it's like a snoring kind of sound. But Khechari is often misunderstood, and it's encrypted. So, in ancient yoga texts, it talks about put some tongs to the tongue and stretch it and slightly cut it a little bit every day as you pour goat's milk on it, and eventually you'll be able to reach and touch between your third eye. When you can do that, you go back behind the uvula and then you go up the nasal passage and press behind the forehead. Some kind of crazy, disgusting. And then the nectar, divine nectar, comes down and it satiates all hunger and you are filled with wisdom. Now, you can achieve somewhat this experience with Nabho Mudra. I already have a video on that. I'll link it below. Khechari Mudra, Nabho Mudra, and the seventh bandha. And so some people believe that Khechari Mudra is the bandha, which is an energetic lock. If you close your eyes and visualize your body as an energy body, like you have a color and a schemata, so there's parts of your body that you have more energy, maybe your shoulders or your groin or your knees, and parts of your body that maybe they're there, but where is the left side ribs in your mind, or the back of your ankle? So your energy may be there or it may not be. And if you can create a containment around a part of your energy body, that's called a bandha. And especially important parts of the body where like chakras and so on, and where important joint spaces also tend to organize around chakras. So the Khechari Mudra is sometimes considered the seventh bandha for Sahasrara chakra. And Nabho Mudra is very similar. And I prefer Nabho Mudra for what people are calling Khechari. And Khechari is the king of all mudra. The Khechari is what you do always. And so I'll explain now. Nabho Mudra roughly means sky mudra. And so that's to take the tongue back and touch, as BNS would say, you just keep doing this gesture while we were practicing. So try to touch the tip of the tongue to the back of the throat. I'm not there yet, and I don't aspire to be. Maybe one day it'll happen. And when that happens, you'll be able to slide the tongue behind the uvula, which people on YouTube can demonstrate, and so on. I had a girlfriend that could do that. So, but if you hold that there for some time, a unique flavor will come down the tongue and throat, and BNS would instruct you swallow that when you finish. I would do sets of 1 minute of holding the tongue back, and phenomenal things happen. You realize all sorts of tension patterns in the mouth and tongue and palate. And that's important because we want to have all of that soft and relaxed while we use Ujjayi. Now, there's heavy Ujjayi that you would use in like the Ashtanga Vinyasa, the posture movement. You're moving posture to posture. But Ujjayi is the jungle breath. You have it always. It's just a deep awareness of the soft. If you could almost like, how like Morse code could be translated into language, even though they're totally different things. One is an electrical signal, and then it's translated into an audio of a different language. I mean, Morse code is like by letters, but you could spell words and then communicate a whole sentence, and that came from a bunch of electrical pulses. And so we want to be able to translate the feeling of the air passing over the glottis into a sound. Translate that into a sound in your mind. And that it can become a real sound, like a snore, but it can also be, and maybe it is creating a sound on a microscopic level, but you want to be able to hear that constant om kind of sound. They call that nada. And the Lamborghini is coming back, so I'll end this very briefly. Khechari. But that's encrypted. That's not, they're trying to scare you off from practicing yoga. Don't go and stretch your tongue and cut it. What you do is it's the space maker, as David David Garrigue, I highly recommend you go and check out his channel, Asana Kitchen, or maybe it's David Garrigue. I'll find it and link it below. That it's this single position he likes to talk about is a singularity of consciousness that resides where you make space in the back of the throat, which is the actual location of Sahasrara. So people think Sahasrara is at the crown. Sahasrara is right above the palate. The crown is Lalata chakra. Go look up the Yoga Makaranda. And so, but we're creating space around that. It's like, I used to watch Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid, and it's like when they send their energy out, and it's like we create space in the palate behind the tongue. This eases the breath. This reminds us to keep the face, jaw, palate, everything relaxed. And so the subject of the video is distinguish that from Ujjayi. So you keep Khechari Mudra, which is just flatten the tongue. I talk about this a lot, broaden it, create space, but this is the concept. The term, you call this broadening the tongue, flattening, and descending it down. It's also useful to know that the tongue actually, I say the tongue, the root is the heart, but anatomically the root is the hyoid. So it is useful to visualize the root of the tongue is the hyoid, flatten, broaden the tongue, let it go from the roof of the mouth, drop it down to the center of the throat. Now create Ujjayi, which is right around that location, but then create space in the soft palate, like an expansion feeling in the back upper mouth. That space is Khechari. You can train Khechari and deepen your awareness of Khechari by practicing Nabho Mudra. So it's all tying together now. So taking the tongue back, you time yourself 15, 30, 60 seconds, never do more than 5 sets. And so expand your awareness of what is to make space. Khechari breaks it, that's why I brought up David. David broke apart the etymology of it. The K is the root space or to make, and cha is like it's a root of the Sanskrit word for the element of space. So there's 5 elements in Ayurveda or whatever that the philosophy of where those elements come from, and cha represents space. So it's the maker of space is Khechari. So you make space and then distinguish Ujjayi is not in that space. It's from it's in a different location. And that, contemplating that, meditating on that while you practice pranayama like I'm doing right now, or asana, is just a phenomenal experience. So comment below if this was helpful for you. I'll link some of those videos. And you got to get on the silent flute. I go way deeper into practices on what to do now with this knowledge. What practices can really amplify the benefits of that. You go to ninthlimb.com, sign up for the silent flute, and I'll see you in the next video. Namaste.